Hi, I'm Nafisa Nazir.
And I'm Leah Horick.
And we are Sustainability Ambassadors at Southwestern University. We created this podcast to help make our campus more sustainable.
And our world too.
So tune in every other Friday to hear more about what's happening in sustainability at SU and to learn what you can do to live a more sustainable life.
So many things, guys.
Thanks for listening.
And stay sustainable.
Good morning, Southwestern, and thank you for joining us this morning. Today, we are joined by James Grizzard to talk about rainwater harvesting. James is the president of Harvest Rain, a team which installs rainwater collection systems using the best materials and technology available.
James has over a decade of experience installing and designing water conservation systems and has received state and national awards for rainwater system design. James is a licensed water treatment specialist, level 3 in the state of Texas, and is an ARCSA accredited professional. James also happens to be an SU alum, and that's how we met him. He graduated in 2005 with a BA in sociology and anthropology. So it's great to have you on, James.
Well, thanks, y'all. I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome. So let's just dive right in. So can you explain what rainwater harvesting is for anybody who doesn't know? I mean, it's in the name a little bit, but.
Yeah, so it's an old time-tested technology. So humans have been harvesting rainwater for drinking water and water for other uses for thousands of years. And it's regained sort of a resurgence, especially in Texas. As you know, we have a water issue in Central Texas, especially. So it's a really simple way to keep water that falls on your roof or on your property and use it for later. The simplest method is a rain barrel, which a lot of people will be familiar with. You stick a barrel underneath the downspout and there you go. So our systems are a little bit bigger and intended for a lot more variety of uses.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
So we're curious, what got you interested in rainwater harvesting?
Yeah, so I was lucky to sort of stumble into it. I was working at a television news station right after graduating, and I wanted to get back to Austin. I wanted to be near friends. And so someone said they were working in an engineering firm, just sort of doing this thing called Rainwater. I had no idea. I'd never heard of it. I started digging trenches for that company and just fell in love. I fell in love with how it's done. I fell in love with the people doing it. And more importantly, it just made sense. It was sort of this thing that was like, why isn't this taught everywhere? It just makes so much sense. So that's how I came into it. And that was almost 15 years ago.
Oh, yeah. And then I stumbled into it sort of through a capstone presentation because for those of y'all who don't know, this environmental studies majors at Southwestern do a big group capstone project at the end of their studies. And 2 years ago, was it? One group did a study on the benefits of moving some rain barrels on campus to a different location, and James helped them, which was super awesome. So we've got the basics of rainwater harvesting. Do you have any like concrete numbers on like how it's more beneficial than, drawing water from underground or maybe like storing in a man-made reservoir?
Yeah, so I mean, the concrete numbers that I would point to are sort of the how much water we use, right, for our household consumption, and then how much you can actually use with rainwater if you decide to do a rainwater collection system for your own house. So the number I always like to start with rainwater is the conversion to tell you how many gallons you can collect off of a certain square footage of roof. The easiest one to think of is 1,000 square feet, that you'll collect about 623 gallons on 1 inch of rain. So the formula is 0.623 times whatever square foot you have. That's how much you can capture on 1 inch of rain. If you take that and put it on 2,500 square feet or so, something like that, typical 4-person home in the hill country, they can collect enough water to give each person about 25 to 40 gallons a day, if the size of the collection system is right and it rains an average amount. So those are sort of concrete numbers. And the reason those are important is because I think the one thing people often have a hard time with rainwater collection is, does it rain enough in Central Texas, right, to give your family plenty of water? And the answer is it really does. And this is one of the areas where it's been time tested, is in Central Texas.
Yeah, I mean, it rains enough to fill the aquifers at some point. So why wouldn't it make sense it would fill your rainwater tank?
Right. Yeah. When it rains, it pours, as you know, in Central Texas, right? So those times drops 3 inches in a weekend or over a course of 2 days. That's enough water that you can store to have for the rest of the summer, 2 to 3 months of a drought. So it really works well here with the duration of rain we get. And it's an excellent quality as well. So that would be, I don't have any numbers to put to the quality.
Huh.
But it's soft, it's naturally neutral in pH, so
Yeah.
better than a lot of the groundwater available in the area.
Yeah.
Um,
Is there a difference? So I'm thinking of like a lake, like a man-made lake that we use to draw water. Like I'm from Tyler, and there's a lake there that was made, and that's where we get our water from mostly. What is the benefits of like having that giant kind of rainwater barrel collection, sort of, and then having one at your house?
Yeah,
Like, what is the
that's,
difference there?
no, that's an excellent question. So at the root, rainwater is going to be surface water, right? That's the water cycle it falls, no pun intended.
Yeah.
It's going to make its way to those reservoirs anyway. But the
Yeah.
huge benefit of collecting it at your own house or your residence is that you control the quality when it falls. So it doesn't run through storm sewers and street drainage and eventually get to a reservoir. You collect it directly off your roof type, keep that clean, filter it, and then put it in a tank for storage. You're eliminating the quality issues as it goes to that surface pond. But on top of that, you're eliminating all of the work it takes to treat that water and then distribute it to each individual home. So, that once the water hits Lake Travis, for example, and is pulled out, it goes through all of this treatment, is distributed in lines all across the city. Those lines are sometimes faulty, can leak. We know that homes leak all the time. So there's all this water loss for major water infrastructure. But rainwater takes every drop, conserves it, and you get to control what each of those gallons you collect does in the house. So that's the biggest benefit, I think, to capturing it on site and reusing it.
Awesome. That totally makes sense. And like you don't have as much loss from evaporation along the way.
That's right. Yeah.
Interesting. Could you speak to like the affordability of such systems?
Affordability is one of the most difficult aspects of rainwater harvesting. So it is a professional rainwater system that's going to run a household is an expensive proposition. It's something that's a lot easier to manage on a new home build, on a lot that doesn't have reliable well water. At this point, the return on investment, say if you wanted to build one in Georgetown or in the city of Austin, would be really long term, 30, 40 years, because what you're paying for water right now from public water systems is really cheap. It's really inexpensive. When you're looking at a well, drilling it for your own water supply in the hill country, the cost can be comparable, if not better, with rainwater harvesting. It just all depends on the ground type and what kind of well water you have. So when you compare it to a well as the sole source of water, it holds up. Right now, in a municipal sense, even for irrigation, a lot of cities don't have rebates. We're fortunate to be in the city of Austin that's got a really nice rainwater rebate, right? Up to $5,000 back for someone that installs a rainwater barrel. But asking a homeowner to take on that upfront cost to do their part in conserving water on their site it's a tough sell. And we'd love more help, with incentives or rebates.
Yeah. I'm sure it doesn't help that a lot of the cost of like city water is not is externalized and not paid for by the consumer, especially if we're running out of water. Man, yeah, that'd be cool. Do you know if the rebate counts for like any kind of water barrel, or how big does it have to be?
Yeah, so the city of Austin's rebate program, which has been going on now for quite some time, really successfully, has been 50 cents per gallon on what they call a non-pressurized system. So a system without a pump, a rain barrel, just a big 200-gallon tank used with gravity. That's 50 cents per whatever gallon you install.
Nice.
It's actually $1 a gallon, up to $5,000 for a tank with a pump on it. And I think the rationale behind that is you can use that water more effectively. You're encouraged to get a lot more of it. And there's some regulatory costs with rainwater systems in municipalities. And so they help to try to cover that in City of Austin with that rebate program.
Oh, could you go more into those? Because I'm actually really curious about the regulatory field in rainwater harvesting.
Yeah, sure. So, Central Texas has this wonderful organization of our stakeholder network of rainwater installers. It's been going on here for 35, 40 years professionally, which is the longest pretty much anywhere in the country. So the organization has put a lot of time trying to get the state of Texas to have laws that, encourage rainwater harvesting. So that said, there are a lot of laws that incentivize rainwater harvesting, tax deductions, requiring certain government buildings to do it. But there are some laws from the regulatory standpoint that are a little bit difficult to overcome and make rainwater more ubiquitous. And one of them is if you have a rainwater system with a pump, it's considered high hazard water. And the city doesn't like high hazard water having the ability to potentially be put back in transmission lines. So you have to get this high hazard backflow prevention device. which makes sure that any water on your property can't pressurize back into the mains. Now that can be expensive because you have to get a certified plumber and you have to dig up existing lines. So that's the biggest municipal regulation that is cost barrier, especially when you're talking about affordability as well.
Why is it considered high hazard water? It's just going over rooftops.
Well, you're asking all the right questions. So, like I said, it's surface water, and that's what TCEQ, Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, sees rainwater as. And surface water has a really high treatment standard. So it has a higher treatment standard for public water supply even than a well water does, right? Yeah. If there was separation between rainwater and surface water, then the treatment standards for the rainwater could be a lot easier to navigate for installers and homeowners.
So I'm imagining that rainwater is not as likely to be as tainted as other surface water, because not actually running over like the surface of the ground. It's just going off the roofs, which are not nearly as polluted as everything else.
That's right. So we sort of have a desired roof types in rainwater collection, and sort of the highest and most affordable and most used in construction is a metal standing seam metal roof. And whatever the water is picking up off that metal roof is only dust, pollen, debris, stuff that's been blown up there falling. We can control that very easily with pre-filtration, tank filtration. Once you get on the ground and you run across fertilizer or you run across oil or anything else into the storm sewer, well, that's a lot harder to take away from that water quality. So yeah, you're exactly right. If we collect it at the source, it's pretty high quality water.
That's frustrating that there's not that separation in the regulation.
Something to hope for. And if people are interested in water law, which I think is never
going to Texas water law. What a can of worms.
Big subject, but I mean, there are ways to make this treatment and collection and treatment of your own water on your own property. There are ways to make it more economically feasible and also encourage it, because the benefits are profound if you can do it on a large scale.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're curious about like your company itself. So part of our podcast is obviously sustainability. What has your company gone? How has your company gone about accomplishing like sustainability objectives or advocating for sustainability in general?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I mean, I feel like I get a bit of an easy pass here because I feel like my entire company is the sustainable model, right? I mean, really encouraging using water that falls directly for your consumption. And so, as I mentioned earlier, it means fewer treatment methods, fewer transmission line things the city has to worry about, fewer straws in the ground is the way I say it for wells, right? So if we can encourage people dropping wells for every property they build in the hill country or around Austin, then we can keep the water in the aquifer that takes a long time to get there, right? These aquifers take a long time to recharge. We can keep that water rising, and we can keep the water that falls on our property being used and then right back into the aquifer. So that's, I think, my whole mission with rainwater sustainability. On top of that, I would say that we try as best we can to do educational projects. I think that, like I said, when I came into this, I didn't understand that rainwater was a technology that was viable. So the more we can get our tanks in front of elementary schools and, through green grants in public spaces, then the more I think the education will sort of lend itself to this technology becoming all over the place. That's the hope.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. What about the for pump systems? About how much energy does one of those pumps use?
Yeah, so it all depends on the system type, right? How frequently you're using the pump, but a whole house pump that's running a total residence is on what's a 30 amp circuit, and I am so bad about kilowatt hours used and things of that nature. And I know more now because the generator discussion has come up after the snowpocalypse. But the pump only runs when the water's used. So a good way to think about that is if you're showering or doing clothes or laundry, that's the most water is going to be used, probably indoors. So during that time, you're probably pulling 8-9 amps, something along those lines. Yeah. So not much.
Speaking of the snowpocalypse, how were y'all affected by that? And like, how many have you gotten? A lot of clients calling you and saying, "Oh my gosh, my rain barrel froze"?
Yeah, I mean, yes. So we got a lot of clients calling with a whole assortment of issues, and I will tell you that the biggest one for our rainwater clients was loss of power. So even in municipality, when you lose power, the water system, well, at at the end of it, the Austin water system was in bad shape. But at the beginning, you could use trickle effect for their water.
Yeah, if it was just electricity and
that's
nothing
right.
else.
So as long as you keep water moving, the pipes don't freeze. Well, with rainwater, to your point, Leah, like we have a pump. That's what moves the water. Once the power's gone on the pump, no water moves and everything breaks. So we had a lot of people that had damage to pressure lines, and similar to what people experience with well systems as well. But the nice part about some of the rainwater systems is that those that didn't lose power also didn't lose water, even when people all around them were losing municipal sources of water. So, while many of Austin residents sat without water for 4 to 5 days, many of the people in the Hill Country who was much colder and had much more effect and didn't have good infrastructure, they're sitting there, they're able to use water because they've got their own source.
Yeah. And kind of going to reliability, or circling back, since this is all about reliability. We mentioned when we were like kind of discussing before this episode that there are some communities that like have to have rainwater systems because I'm assuming just because they don't have the groundwater. So are they just fully reliant on rainwater collection for the whole city water?
Yes, yeah. So there are a few of those communities in the Hill Country near Dripping Springs and Driftwood and Wimberley. And some of them say the only source of water you can have if you build a home is rainwater. The aim for that is to keep that groundwater, stored where it needs to be. And some of these neighborhoods are directly over recharge zones for sensitive water. So it's been an effort from the developer and from the county and from groundwater districts. One of them, which is happening in Driftwood right now, is a pretty high dollar community, and it's got 2-acre, 3-acre lots. But the county has done a wonderful thing with this development and required them to collect 1.96 inches every rainfall. So the first 1.96 inches on every rooftop in the development. So as you might imagine, that is a lot of water. What they're doing with that is putting it back in an injection well into the aquifer. So it's a forward-thinking way of, if we're going to put impervious cover and structure up, why don't we do something with this before it goes to stormwater and hurts creek beds?
Wow, I will spend a lot of time talking badly about developers, but I'm pleasantly surprised. I feel like that's not something I would have expected to happen in Texas.
Yeah, it's a forward-thinking project, and I think by the time it gets done in 2, 3, 4 years, it's really going to be a model of what you can do with stormwater in a community setting, at least on a large scale like that.
Yeah, that's going to be so cool. Now, this is just kind of a fun question, but how many people do you work with that are they preppers? Like, if you met with any like seriously doomsday preppers?
Yes, of course. Right. I mean, rainwater is a sustainable sort of autonomous off-grid network. So of course we're going to meet some of those people who are into that. And I will say that I've learned a lot about all sorts of technologies from those people who are just prepared no matter what's going to happen: power, energy, food. So yeah, we cross paths with that segment of the population, I would say.
Oh man, that's so cool. I always I half admire and half judge like preppers and like people who go off grid. So I'm like, oh, you don't know, like it's such a privilege to be able to do that when everybody else, like not everybody can afford it. But then I'm just like, oh, that's just sounds really nice to like not have to worry about the power going off or the water going off or anything like that. Like I'll have my little compound in case the apocalypse comes, and I'll write it out in style.
Yeah. I mean, we have a senator in the state that did that, basically. So.
Oh, which one?
Mr. Cruz ran away.
Oh, fair. Yeah.
Those who can afford to fly away can fly away.
Oh, God. Well, we try not to bring politics on here, but we fail because we just can't. No, I'm not saying that all Republicans are not sustainable, but there's definitely some division there. Okay. I'm not gonna go on about that. I'm gonna behave. Nafisa, did you have anything else you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I was really curious about what's it called? The constellation community. Do you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Constellation is actually a community, a small community, small development off of 1826. I hope I remember that correctly, but down in Driftwood, and they've been sort of having homes built now for 7, 8 years, something like that, a good amount of time. And I don't know the entire reasoning behind why they chose to say rainwater was the only water source that you could have, but for whatever reason they did. And now there are several homes already in that development that are running entirely on rainwater. So
Wow.
that's irrigation, that's, indoor potable use, whatever water you use is got to be captured by rain.
Mhm.
So.
And they have a cool name.
Yes.
I was kind of joking with one of my coworkers because I'm doing an internship with the city of Georgetown planning department, and we were joking about subdivision names because a lot of them are so similar. I think there's like 3 that are called like Oakview, and they're different places, but they're all called the same thing. And he was like, "I hate subdivision names." I'm like, "Yes, they just bulldoze all the nature, and they just let's name it something whimsical to kind of distract from the fact that we destroyed all the actual trees."
Right. Yeah, like old oaks. It's like, well, they're all gone. So more like new oaks. This should be the name of this
You
development.
can put up a sign that has a picture of the trees that used to be here. But I mean, they're doing rainwater, so they're on their way towards being better. But yeah, well, that was all super interesting information, and we could probably talk for much longer about it, though we are nearing time.
Yeah.
So, did you have any last things you wanted to go over, James? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I almost called you Travis.
No, I mean, I could talk about this for 3.5 days. I love doing rainwater, and I would just say that if you can think about rainwater on a big scale being encouraged, right? Economically, if it's feasible for everybody to do, and it's encouraged to do, there is enough water that falls on most of the homes in and around this area that can sustain irrigation on some small scale, and certainly sustain it with native plants. And if we can somehow keep on charging toward that model, we can reduce the need for potable water so greatly and allow cities to redo their infrastructure. So Austin loses somewhere around 40 to 60% of their treated water in infrastructure line breaks, right? Water main breaks and aging piping. Well, if we can take away 50% of what we use water for here in Austin, which is outdoor irrigation, we can allow that infrastructure to be repaired with much less demand on it. So I just think a large scale push for some type of on-site watering with rainwater is the future. I hope to be there when it happens.
I agree.
Yes.
All right, well, we have some news.
Yeah, so as you all know, well, thank you. First of all, thank you, James, for
Yes,
your
thank you so much for being here.
expertise.
Yeah, thanks. I had a good time. Thanks for inviting me.
And so as you all know, we are now in the heart of Earth Month. And so there's a lot of things happening, and we'll make sure to post details about these on our Instagram, and they'll also be posted on the SU sustainability account. So keep an eye out for those details. So there's gonna be a lot of events. Hopefully yesterday you got to attend the Netflix watch party for Kiss the Earth. Today, 1 p.m., Seek and the Waste Team are hosting a plugging event. So you get to jog around and pick up trash.
At 5 p.m., the grounds team, which is me, we're holding a nature walk. So please join us to take a jaunt around campus and learn about the ecosystems surrounding Southwestern. Sunday, the 18th at 5 p.m., Paige and Nafisa of the Energy team are hosting an energy game night. So there'll be Energy Kahoot and Earth Month themed Jeopardy, and there'll be free prizes.
Yes, and we made sure to make them sustainable prizes. So
awesome.
Yeah. Then on Monday, the 19th at 7 p.m., we have the food team hosting a sustainable cooking demo, and it should be a fun and easy sustainable cooking demonstration, so you can follow along with that.
And then on Thursday, the 22nd at 11 a.m., Andy from Sodexo will be hosting an Earth Forward lunch. So sustainable food, hopefully tasty.
And then also on the 22nd at 6 p.m., Veronica will be hosting a virtual screening of 2040, which is a documentary film focusing on the new approaches and solutions to climate change.
And on Friday, April 23rd at 1 p.m., several of us sustainability ambassadors will be hosting a treasure chest pop-up on the mall, so you can come and get thrifted clothing and other stuff.
Yeah, and on Tuesday, April 27th,
at 2 p.m., they're having a de-stress plant therapy event hosted by the Health and Counseling Center, talking about the benefits of plants, which there are many.
At 7 p.m., we'll have a book discussion about Let's Talk About It. And finally, on Friday, April 30th at 10 a.m., the facilities are going to be hosting tree plantings for National Arbor Day.
All right, and that's all. So many events. I think that's the most news we've ever had. A busy month, Earth Month. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening, and I hope you have a happy Earth Month. But remember to make every month Earth Month, every day Earth Day.